Hi, I'm Joe Eliseon, and I'm here to read to you a third excerpt from my latest novel, Snarkey Putts, Paranormal Attorneys at Law number 3, The Case of the Canine's Curse. Before I do, I would like to thank those of my Twitter friends who have tweeted me to tell me how much they like these videos. I appreciate it greatly, and I realize that they're not very fancy. There's no music, there are no special effects, there's very little editing, as little as I can get along with. But I really do appreciate your comments. So if you'd like to help out, then please subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you like this video, hit the like button. It helps a lot. And so, without further ado, let's get to the excerpt. In this excerpt, we join our favorite paranormal attorney, R. Andrew Putts III, and his friend, the ex-bartender, ex-cop, ex-innkeeper, and current process server, Frank Migliore. In the wee small hours of the morning, as they stand on the front porch of the mysterious gypsy woman, Vadoma Bruno, preparing to serve her with an eviction notice on behalf of Putts' client, the fabulously wealthy and successful real estate developer, Elliot Babington. But there's a twist to our story, and the twist is this. Vadoma Bruno was Elliot Babington's nanny. Let's get started. Migliore pulled the notice to quit from his pocket. This is the best time of day to make service. Regular people haven't gone to work yet. Drunks and slime balls are just getting home. Little old ladies have been up for an hour or so, and you don't scare them. He rang the bell with his free hand and knocked on the door with the hand that gripped the notice. After 5 rings and several stanzas of knocks, a light went on in the front hall behind the door. Putts heard a chain rattle, then a deadbolt thud, then the doorknob grate and squeal, then the hinges creak. The door opened a crack. A wrinkled forehead appeared, topped by a tight bun of white hair, level with Putts' chest. Below the forehead, a pair of dark eyes, dark as midnight, deep set in the wrinkled skin, raked Putts. A nose bent between the eyes, sharp as a hawk's beak. Beneath the nose, dry lips puckered into a series of narrow pleats, tight and tailored, like the stitched mouth of a corpse. Putts stepped back till he stood even with Migliore. The woman said nothing. Shielded from the sun by the shadow of the doorpost, her eyes asked the questions. Migliore coughed, gagged, and coughed again. He stepped in front of Putts, holding the notice to quit before him like a buckler. Vadoma Bruno? Still, the woman said nothing. Her eyes passed over Migliore's shoulder, wringing Putts out like a wet washcloth. His bones turned to water. They dripped between the porch's floorboards. Migliore, knees wobbling, stood his ground. Are you Vadoma Bruno? For an instant, Migliore's question pulled the woman's attention away from Putts. The respite gave the lawyer a chance to realize that the woman hid behind her eyes. They formed her sanctuary, her shield wall. From the safety behind them, she flung her voice, a spear-pointed whisper. Why do you look for Vadoma Bruno? Migliore still held the notice, but it offered no more protection. It weighed down on his arm, forcing it lower and lower. I have something for her, he croaked. The woman's twig-thin arm coiled out from the crack, her black sleeve billowing in the morning breeze, sucking up the angling sunlight. I will take it. No! Miliori shook his head to regain himself. The thin arm snapped back into the crack. I can't give it to you. I've got to give it to her. Only to her. You must do what you must do. The woman shrank back into the crack, leaving the door open. Her whisper lingered as she disappeared. Come in. Miliori pushed the door open. Its hinges groaned as the crack widened into a doorway, then into a front hall. On the right stood a console table, covered with a crocheted white doily. On top of it, a yellow vase filled with yellower gladiolas. Above the gladiolas, a wall mirror hung in a gilded frame. On the hardwood floor, a deep green runner ran within a white Greek key border. At the runner's far end, beneath a hanging crystal lamp, stood the wrinkled woman, somehow shrunken, somehow still chest high. Are you coming? Miliori turned a $40 look on Putts. We're coming, he said. Gripping the notice so hard it crunched, he stepped over the gray-painted threshold and into the brightening hallway. Putts poked his head around the doorpost. So far, Miliori appeared unharmed. He followed the ex-cop in. Lady, Miliori strained to sound official, are you or are you not Vadoma Brono? The little woman stepped into her parlor. She curled her fingers at them. Come in, her whisper commanded. Miliori followed her into the parlor. Lady, I'm not kidding. Her whisper repeated its command. Come in. Sit. Putts bumped into Miliori's backside. The two of them squeezed through the doorway and into the tiny parlor. They found themselves trapped in a narrow space between a table and a small settee. The table felt awkward, coffee table sized but dining table height. It rested atop three slender legs that swept up from clawed feet on the floor to join in a burled pedestal. The beefy pair inhaled to squeeze themselves between the settee's rounded wood-rimmed arms and settled onto its delicate embroidered floral upholstery. They sank lower than was comfortable. Sunlight twinkled from the facets of a cut crystal wine decanter that sat at eye level on the tabletop. Putts had to blink several times before he could make out the ring of writhing brass serpents and dancing brass wolves that formed the decanter's base. Odd combination, he thought. The old woman stood on the opposite side of the table. Short as she was, her face towered over the decanter's sharp-peaked stopper. She looked down on them. A doorway cut in a bright yellow wall arched behind her, its frame whitewashed wood. Through the doorway, Putts could see another small but unsettlingly bright room. A dining room, he judged by its more conventional table. The woman broke into his judgments. I am Vadoma Brono. What do you want with me? Putts and Miliori traded unsettled looks. I'm just along for the ride, Putts reminded his $40 companion. Miliori tried to stand, but the settee's left arm pinned him down. He couldn't move. Her eyes fixed on the notice still in his hand, the woman stretched her bony fingers toward Miliori. Stuck between Putts and the settee's arm, Miliori reached over the table and flipped the notice from his straining fingers into the old woman's clenching fist. He tried his level best to speak with authority. "Vladimir Bruno, I serve you with this notice to quit, pursuant to the summary process rules and the rules of civil procedure of this Commonwealth." The woman gathered the paper to the hooked tip of her nose. It ran back and forth across the print, as if it were smelling rather than reading it. Then the nose stopped, like a typewriter carriage hitting the end of its track. It hooked over the top of the notice. "What is this?" Miliori looked at Putts. Putts looked back at Miliori. $40, he reminded. Miliori cleared his throat. "This is a legal notice that your tenancy at will is terminated, and all outstanding amounts are currently due." Putts nodded. "That's what it is." The woman's dark eyes darkened even more, turning the room's sunshine pale, thin, brittle. "I don't understand." Putts squeezed forward, fighting off the settee and pushing off Miliori. "Miss Bruno, your landlord wants you out of this apartment. Babington Real Estate Management Corporation is terminating your month-to-month tenancy for non-payment of rent. You haven't paid your rent. You have to get out. If you don't vacate the premises in no more than 2 weeks, Babington Real Estate will go to court and get you evicted. Thrown out." "Babington?" The old lady's uncomprehending stare overwhelmed the faltering sunlight, casting them all into shadow. "My Babingtons? My Glynis? My Eliot? They're my children." Miliori wrenched his head around at Putts. "I told you I hate throwing old women out into the street, Putts. I don't know why I took your lousy $40." Refracted into 1,000 dark daggers by the decanter's facets, Vladimir Bruno's eyes stabbed into Putts. "You are the one who has done this." "Not me!" Putts cried. "I'm only their professional ass. Your Babington's Eliot Babington. He paid me to do it." The woman let the notice fall to the floor like ashes blown from a fire. "How dare you speak the name of my Eliot? My Eliot loves me. He is a son to me. I am a mother to him. When he strayed into the darkness of his fathers, I brought him back." The sunlight's remains filtered through the decanter's wine, bleeding dark and red over the woman's protruding cheekbones, plummeting into the bottomless night of her eyes. "I took the risk. I alone. They begged me, and I did. He is mine. He would never harm me. He would never turn against me." She paused, clutching all the parlor's light to her shriveled bosom, and groaning, "Unless—" Putts wheezed, trying to pull Miliori off the settee. "We did what we came to do. We gave you the notice. You've got it, so we'll be going." The woman's dry fingertips scraped the air. "You go nowhere. Sit!" Her words hit Putts in the chest, but they weren't enough to stop him. He pulled at Miliori. "We're going. Come on, Frank." Miliori looked up at Putts. The man couldn't speak. He couldn't move. Putts grew angry. He turned on the Bruno woman. "Let us go." The woman stumbled backwards. Her dark eyes widened. "You! Who?" she gasped. But the shock didn't last. She regained her balance, drew back one spindly black-robed arm, and thrust forward with the other. "You are nothing! You cannot harm me! I am the daughter of a king, sister of 7 brothers, all kings, kings of the Gypsies." Miliori's voice shook free. "That's one hell of a pedigree, Putts." And if you'd like to see what the result of that pedigree is, I guess you'll have to buy the book and read the rest of chapter 7, and maybe the whole thing. In the meantime, if you'd like to hear me read other excerpts from this and other works, then click on one of the boxes that's to either side of my head. If you would actually like to go and look at my other works in their printed form and maybe buy them, I gently suggest. Or if you'd like to take a visit to my Amazon author page or my website where there's a lot of free stuff, a lot of free stories and other things. Or if you'd like to drop by my YouTube channel, the links are all in the description box below. So, that's it for today. I'd like to thank you for stopping by, and I hope to see you again real soon. Thanks.